Hello, everyone, and welcome to. I look like I'm frozen, but I'm just going to keep speaking. Welcome to how to embrace different communication styles in your team. So I'm just going to check that I am live on Facebook. I'm streaming through Zoom today. Yep, I am live. So lovely to see you, and welcome to how to embrace different communication styles in your team. So this session is all about reflecting on and thinking about your communication preferences and your communication styles and that of your team. So often we face friction, I suppose, in how we communicate and how we work together as a team. And sometimes we think that it's because that person is being a little bit difficult, a little bit awkward, not very helpful. But actually, the truth is, in most cases, the difference is, excuse me, not because they're being difficult. It's because they've got a different communication style, a different communication preference. And it's that sometimes causes problems. So if you are watching live on Facebook, please do say hi. I will check in on my phone shortly, and just to see if there are any comments and any questions as I go. If you're watching on replay, please also do say hi and comment, whether you're on Facebook or watching this as a recording on YouTube. You're really welcome, and it's really lovely to see you here. My name is Emily Petty. I am a coach and a trainer and a facilitator, and my passion really is to help you love work, help you feel fulfilled in work. And that's sometimes about your personal growth, your personal leadership development, your personal career path. That's also about how we work with our colleagues. So our own personal, how we kind of show up, is often impacted by the people around us, and that impacts how we feel, how well our days are going. We work with other people, we are connected, and connection is really important for our well-being, for our growth. And we encounter difficult people, easy to get along with people, but the skill in being able to work with people, even though they might have different communication styles, is really key, whether you lead others or not. So if you've got any questions, as I've said, as we go through, please do ask, and I will endeavour to answer them as we go through this session. So I'm going to run through some scenarios, and just as I run through the scenarios, have a think, do any of those resonate? So is there someone that you work with who is really frustrating because they are always focusing on the detail? They're always asking how, by when, what's the next step? They're the people who go right down and have a sort of flow chart, want to look at all the detail, and you're just wanting to sort of sail off ahead and move forward. So it can be quite frustrating if you're perhaps working with one of those people, or maybe you're that person, you're wanting to get into the detail, and everyone around you is big picture. Maybe you work with someone who always wants to get everyone's viewpoint. So in meetings, everyone has to have their say. We have to collaborate. We have to get consensus before we want to move forward. And maybe you're one of those people who's just, let's just make a decision and move forward. Why are we having all of these conversations? And that can be frustrating if you're working with someone who likes to make sure everyone's voice is heard, or perhaps you're the person who wants to make sure everyone's voice is heard, and you're working with someone who just sort of moves forward, makes a decision without collaborating and without consulting. Maybe you work with someone who sends those short one-liner emails, sort of done, and who just sort of states facts very bluntly and quickly, and doesn't sort of check in and ask how you are and connect, and you feel sort of there isn't really a rapport there, and they're just sort of quite blinkered and quite focused. And for you, it's important maybe to have that connection and that communication, maybe to sort of put a story around something alongside maybe the facts and the figures. And maybe you are that person who's quite target driven, quite focused. When you get into work, you want to get your head down, and you're less interested in the sort of water cooler chats and the coffee chats, and you see that as a waste of time. Maybe you work with someone who's that all ideas, the big picture, the vision person, but you struggle because they don't get to the detail. They don't sort of help people map out actually how we're going to get there. And they're sort of full of optimism and positivity, but it sort of just feels a bit disconcerting because you don't know how someone is going to move forward. And so the chances are in a team, you've got a number of different communication preferences. So some of those may have resonated for you personally, some of those may have resonated for some of your colleagues, whether they be your peers, your boss, or the people that you manage. And you will have a dominant behaviour preference. So if you lead a team and you have one preference, then you are going to communicate in that style. You're going to run a team meeting in that style. The way you pass on information, so whether that be a report or emails, or the way you use telephone or chat or other forms of communication, will be led by your preference. So if you're leading other people who have a different preference, they might be getting a little bit frustrated or be finding it difficult, and there's a chance that you're not enabling everyone to thrive within the workplace. Often though, actually, interestingly, when I do work with teams, there's often a dominant behavior preference or communication preference within one team, because often recruits and people sort of often sort of adapt as well. But actually, for a really positive, healthy working team, we want to see behavior and communication preferences across the board, so that there's not one dominant way of thinking and working. So those of you who might have worked with behavior preferences tools, the examples that I'm giving is alluding to See-Me color profiling, which is a tool that I use. And although this is not a See-Me color profiling workshop, I thought I'd share 2 slides really from their decks, which help us look at and reflect on communication preferences and unhelpful communication preferences. And then I'm going to run through basically some steps that you can take to help you to think about the different communication preferences that there might be in your team, and how you can have a healthy and positive conversation about those differences to help you reflect, but also help your team reflect, and then think about how you can adapt as a team. So let me just check in to see if there are any comments coming through. No, I can't find my live. Great. Okay, nothing for the moment, but so I will hopefully, I can't see any comments at the moment, so hopefully if they do come through, I can pick those up. So let me just share my screen. So in See-Me color profiling, there are 4 colors, and it's important to note that we are a blend of these colors, but there'll be 1, perhaps 2 that have a dominant preference for us. So it's, for me, I'm a dominant green preference with sort of blue and yellow and less red. So I'm going to start with the blue and just describe sort of actually those areas through those bullet points. And as I go through, have a think about which of these bullet points resonate for you. So there might be more than one, they might come from more than one area. And also, what do you notice in your team? So a blue preference person is very much on the introverted and logical thinking side of the colour wheel. So if you want to communicate effectively with a blue preference, you want to give them facts, ideally in writing. You want to be rational and practical. You want to ask for their questions, so make sure that they've had time to sort of process everything. Discuss the principles, be logical and thorough, listen carefully to questions and allow them time to prepare. So if you know you've got that kind of very logical, thorough person, often they might be a kind of data person, maybe a finance person, database person, someone in that sort of role, you're going to want to communicate with them in that way. And the opposite of that will be that sort of big, interactive, yellow preference. So if you're a yellow preference, remember you need the blue preference person because you need someone getting into the detail, but you need to just adapt a little bit to support them. So have a think, do you recognize any of those within yourself, and do you recognize any of those within your team? And then moving around clockwise, the red preference. So this is the very much is more extroverted, more feeling preference. So you want to demonstrate conviction. You want to identify their role quickly. So often you need to be a little bit more concise with your communication, being direct and action focused. Present options very clearly, nothing kind of waffly and unclear. Focus on success, so focusing on the goal, be clear and brief, and refer early to the objective. So why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve here? If there's no objective, a red preference person is going to find that quite difficult. If you've got a yellow preference person, or if you're a yellow preference, you would communicate with them by being interactive and friendly, use visuals, allow free flow of conversations. So yellow preference loves those kind of more interactive, creative meetings with maybe less structure. Be light and fast paced, make direct eye contact, see their views and ideas, allow for an open discussion. And then green preference. So green preferences like time for discussion, everyone's viewpoints. They want to be listened to, show sincere interest, be polite and courteous, consider their options, be sensitive because their feelings matter. So they're on the feeling preference, and progress at their relaxed pace. So as you look at that slide, where do you sit is the first question. Where do your team sit? And then how are you currently meeting and communicating? So it might be that you have very quick, very clear, very brief 10-minute stand-up meetings once a week, and that's how you manage your team. So chances are you're sort of more in the red preference. You might have very relaxed team meetings where you have coffee, where you chat, so there's always cake, lots of time to just share and have a little bit of banter before you get to the business. Chances are you're probably a green preference, or at least you've adopted a green preference way of communication. It might be that when you get to your meetings, you've got a spreadsheet and a Gantt chart, and you're ticking things off the list, and it's all quite kind of structured and regimented. Then the chances are it's blue. If you love those sort of interactive brainstorming meetings, everything's quite free flowing, but actually sometimes you don't get to actions and agenda point, chances are you're yellow. And actually the ideal position we want to be in is to think about, have we got meetings or ways that we communicate throughout the week and throughout the month as a team that enables everyone in the team to thrive and enables us to work in all those areas. So if we were all just big picture generating ideas in the yellow preference, we probably wouldn't get anything done. If we were always just kind of getting consensus and not driving to conviction and being direct and clear, we probably wouldn't get anything done. If we were just getting to the point really quickly, probably quite a lot of people get alienated, their views wouldn't be brought to the table, and creativity and innovation would not thrive. If we were just focusing on the detail, then we wouldn't have a chance to sort of step back and look at the big picture. So you can see how actually having a balance and a blend of all these 4 areas can have real impact and how we communicate. And actually what I love about this is we can all stretch into these different areas. We all have the skills to do that, and being aware of your natural preference and stretching helps you to grow as a person, helps your team to grow as well. I would say just be aware, if you're always stretching, you're going to get tired and in low energy. So another way for you to identify your preference would be to ask yourself the question, when am I energized most? When do I feel like everything is easy? Is it when I'm in the big picture? Is it when I'm collaborating? Is it in the detail? Is it when things are moving forward at a fast pace? So that's a really good question. And I'm just going to stop sharing the screen to ask yourself, when do you feel energized? When do you feel motivated? When do you feel that kind of passion and excitement? When do you notice that in your colleagues? When do you notice team meetings when everyone just sits and like shrinks to the floor or switches their video off, because actually those are the moments that maybe you need less of, or you need to encourage everybody to stretch a little bit. So my sort of top tips or my steps for you to think about how you can embrace different communication styles. So first, recognize everyone's preferences are different. So it is about preference. It is about kind of who we are, our behavior preference, not who we are as such. Notice your own preferences. So just observe and take notes for a week maybe, and just see what you notice over a week. Notice your team's preferences. So like I say, notice people's behavior. Notice what you are doing as a team at the moment. Is it working? Is it helpful? Does it play to your strengths and your preferences? And then I would really encourage you, if you believe that actually we need to make some changes, is to have an honest conversation. So facilitate a session where you share your preferences, how you like to be communicated with. And a sentence that I really recommend and have found really, really helpful is to encourage everyone to answer the question, you get the best of me when. So it might say, you get the best of me when you give me time to reflect. You get the best of me when you pick up the phone and you speak to me. So give everyone an opportunity to have a think about that question. You could ask them to think about when they get energy, when they're energized as well. And then facilitate a conversation. Make sure you go round the table. Everyone has an opportunity to speak, an equal opportunity to speak, and you're facilitating so that people listen to each other respectfully. And then say, well, actually, knowing all of that, knowing all of our different preferences, what do we need to change about how we meet and how we communicate? So that could be your meetings, it could be your emails, it could be structures around how you use Teams, how you use messaging, whether you arrange meetings or pick up the phone, all of those sort of unsaid protocols. So then you can start to create some protocols for your team, or some of the teams that I've worked with talk about rituals, which I really love. It gives more purpose and meaning. It gives ownership as well. So if we know actually in a meeting, it's really important for 2 or 3 members that we collaborate and make sure everyone's voice is heard, well, then we always do a round and we always make sure during the meeting everyone has a chance to speak. If for some members of the team it's really important that they know exactly where they're getting to, we always end the meeting with very clear action points and next steps. It's important for people to check in and find out how people are. Then we have 5 minutes at the beginning where we have general chit chat, or we have another meeting which is just very informal. So have a think about, how are you meeting? How can you change that? And I would really recommend that you do that collaboratively. You might have your ideas about what you think you could change and what could work, but actually you're going to be more successful and get more buy-in if you get your team on board and bring them into that conversation. So those are my reflections and tips. If you want to use See.Me colour profiling as a tool to aid that conversation, because it does help get to that deeper understanding, I offer See.Me colour profiling workshops. I do from a 90-minute, very light touch, quick workshop, so I could focus on one area, for example, communication, to a whole day workshop where we can cover a number of areas as a team. And that would include everyone getting an individual profile, and you've got an option as to whether each individual has a one-to-one 30-minute power coaching session with me to help them understand their profile sort of confidentially before they come to the session. And I found that that's really helpful for people to sort of remove that sense of expectation of what they should be saying in the work context versus actually what they want to say and process in a confidential space. So if you lead a team and you are interested in how tools like See.Me colour profiling, or actually without that, just facilitating a conversation that would help enable and empower your team to communicate together with more impact and overcome maybe some of the barriers that you're facing at the moment, drop me a line. I'm open for workshops during, where are we, May, June and July, so please do drop me a line if that is of something that is of interest to you. Or actually you might say, I need to understand myself better and I just want to have a profile myself and a one-to-one coaching session alongside that, because that can just be a starting point to help you use the tool to unlock your thinking really for you. So I hope you found that useful. Any questions, please do ask. I'm going to come offline and then follow up if anyone has asked questions on the Facebook page. Other than that, please do drop me an email at hello@emilypettyconsulting.com and I can follow up any questions with you. Have a lovely weekend.